Without the right documents in place, your assets could end up in the wrong hands, and your loved ones could be left sorting through a legal mess. Planning for the future is one of the most important things you can do. And Nick Clekis, owner of Clekis Law Firm, is here to make sure we do it right. Nick, always a pleasure. Thank you for being here. Starting off, can I draft my own will?
You can, and they have things on the internet. Of course, as lawyers, we don't recommend that because you really want to make sure it's done right. You have to have 2 witnesses. There are certain requirements that you want to make sure are covered.
Mm-hmm. And 2 witnesses are one of those requirements. What are some more?
Well, obviously, the person has to be of legal sound mind and body, know the objects of their bounty, and really you want to make sure that it's done properly. They're a little more involved than they used to be. The old days, we did flip-flop wills where if you and I are married, if you die, I get everything. If I die, you get everything. But now there's so much more that they do with wills, power of attorneys and other things like that.
And used to kind of flip-flop. If a spouse dies, the other one gets the money. What happens today in South Carolina if you die without a will?
Yeah, so everybody always thinks that, the state gets the money, and, that's not really the way it works. So the person that writes the will is called a testator. If you die intestate, which means with no will, and you're married, your spouse automatically gets 50% of your estate, and your children get the other 50%. If you have no children, your wife gets it all. If you have 1 child, they get the other 50%. If you have 2, they get 25% each. If you have 3, they get 50% and share it, and so on. Mm-hmm. So that other 50% is divided amongst the children.
Does that vary by state?
Yes.
Okay. I often hear terms about probate and executor. Can you explain those to me? What does that mean?
Yeah, so the executor and executrix for females was the old terms that were used. We now just call them personal representatives. Mm-hmm. That's somebody that you name in your will to handle your estate as it goes through probate. Mm-hmm. To go through probate, you have to have, and when you say an estate, you don't think of a big palatial castle.
Yeah.
You just have to have assets, aggregate assets of $25,000 or more, and it goes through the probate court to make sure that it's properly distributed to your heirs and devisees and all the beneficiaries and people that are supposed to get it according to your will.
Mm. And when we're talking about wills, power of attorney comes up quite a bit. So what is a healthcare or a medical power of attorney?
Right. So I was talking about wills are not so easy anymore now. The power of attorney statute has changed a few years ago, and it has all kinds of requirements. The healthcare power of attorney, and there's also a living will, are kind of the same. The living will is kind of a directive of your medical desires that is given to a healthcare provider to make whatever final decisions need to be made. Mm-hmm. Healthcare power of attorney is where you direct your agent, family member usually, to make decisions. And it's a very important document because it's going to ask, if you're terminally ill, should we withhold food, water, medicine? Are you a DNR, do not resuscitate? Who gets to pull the plug? And even, somebody that's young and healthy, such as yourself, when you're filling out that document, those are very difficult questions to answer. Much less, the person you appoint to make those decisions when the time comes.
It is difficult, but you are also doing, whoever you appoint, you are doing them such a service, letting them know your wishes and what you would like. And last question, how long does power of attorney last?
It lasts until the person dies.
Okay.
It dies with them, and then it reverts to the will, and whatever the will says takes over at that point.
Okay. Wonderful, Nick. Thank you so much. Any legal questions at all, 843-900000000, Clekis.com is where you can go. Nick, you're going to be joining us back next week for a really exciting topic I'm excited to talk about.
Yeah.
Thank you, as always.
Great to see you. Thanks.
We're back in 2 minutes.
This has been Legal Perspective with Nick Clekis.